Welcome to episode 97 of Sharp Podcast, the podcast that helps you get better at the things you have to do so you can spend more time doing the things you want to do. And wow, have we got a cracker for you. So our last full episode was at Christmas, where we dual shared a conversation that we had with Naomi Lloyd about belonging. It was a great conversation, by the way. Go back and check it out if you haven't heard it yet. And in between then and now, we've shared our fortnightly Free Fast 3 episodes, each featuring 3 quick tips and ideas about doing things better. But this time, we've got a conversation that I've been working on bringing to you for some time, and I am very excited. You are going to love it. We finally managed to pin down 2 very busy people, Dan and Karyn Hughes, to talk about the amazing work that they do through their company Vitae Vi. So why is it amazing? Because it's literally life-changing. And that isn't an overstatement. You're going to hear all about it, and we cover so much in this chat. The power of your breath, how you can change your frame of mind and your physiology, cold exposure, immunity, health. Each one of these is a superpower, if you like, a force multiplier that can then help you do everything better, clearer, with a great frame of mind, and in a way where you can take these very simple techniques and enable your mind to have full control over your body, your physiology, and how you show up to the things that you do. We've got stories, we've got practical things that you can try literally while you're listening. It's brilliant. So, enough preamble, I'll let you get into it. Oh, and listen through to the end for an exciting announcement about something brand new. So join us now at Spark Community Space Podcast Room as we switch the mics on and start chatting. Hello, Dan. Hello, Karyn.
Hello. Hi, Steve.
How you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Excited to be here.
Here we are in Spark Community Space. Now, look, genuinely, Dan, I remembered today while I was writing some notes, we met here, didn't we?
We did. We had our first date here, didn't we?
We did, absolutely. You were doing a talk on breathwork, and that's when I became inspired. Anyway, we'll get into all of that in a moment. Welcome to Sharp Podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks, thank you.
It's really cool. It's really cool of you both coming on, and I really, really appreciate it. I have wanted for so long to get you in front of the microphone, because the more I think about it and the more I think about what you do and your work and everything, how it is so much in line with what we talk about at Sharp Podcast. Our listener will know our tagline is, we help you get better at the stuff you have to do so you can spend more time doing the things you want to do. And what you do helps people with the stuff they have to do and the things they want to do. So should we just start off by, if you tell me who you are and what each of you do in Vitae Vi?
Sure. So our business, Vitae Vi, which is Latin, by the way, for life force, the things that we promote and coach and teach are all about giving you life force energy, whether that's energy from sleep, whether that's energy from breath work, whether that's energy from cold exposure, or whether that's energy created by reflexology.
And you are husband and wife team?
We are.
We are.
We'll get onto some of that a bit later, because that must present interesting challenges working together. I know when Lisa and I are in the same office, it presents enough challenges. Only this afternoon, she was on a call, I was recording a video. We've got like the voiceover booth in the middle, but it doesn't cut out all the sound, and we're both like slightly getting louder each time. So Karyn, what's Vitae Vi from your perspective? What part of it is your part?
Do you know what? That the whole thing is a joint thing.
Okay.
You know, we came into this together. We've been talking for a few years about doing something together at some point. And then with Dan's illness, it made our minds up for us. It had to be something within the wellbeing space, which is where I've been since I left school anyway. So yeah, that's how it came to be. And obviously the breath work and the cold exposure came from that being Dan's recovery method from his severe long COVID. And we both decided that we were going to do the breathwork stuff. Dan did the Wim Hof training because that, with the cold exposure and the breathwork, they were the 2 things that he did every day that changed his life. Okay. You know, if you'd seen him laying in a bed, unable to move, to where he is now. It's, that's what changed it. But it's evolving. I mean, I brought the breath work into my reflexology treatment, which I've been doing for 30 years.
Okay. Karyn, what is reflexology for the uninitiated?
So reflexology is, in very, very simple layman's terms, is a treatment that you do on the feet. It can also be done on the hands. Okay. So if you looked at the sole of somebody's feet or somebody's foot, it's a map of the body, starting at the head, working all the way down to, below the pelvis and the lower back.
Yeah.
And you work over in a methodical movement with sort of deep massage movements. And what it does, it really just helps to, or tries to unblock, anything in the body that's got a bit of a blockage, really. A little bit like kinks in wires.
Right.
You try to smooth out the kinks, basically. That's what it is. It's all about balancing the energy and, just getting your body to work the way it should for itself.
So, we've got loads to talk about there. Breath work, Wim Hof, eye stuff, your illness, Dan, Karyn, reflexology and your history in health. Can you remember the day, was there a day when you both said, I know, why don't we do this? Long pause.
Long pause. Dramatic pause.
Raised eyebrow.
Look, listener, we're saying what's happening here because this is an audio-only meeting, so we thought we'd raised eyebrow. I've moved my left hand slightly off my knee. Was it a single event or was it an evolution? I
think it was an evolution. When I was at my worst in terms of illness, I couldn't function. My brain function had completely gone. And I was really concerned that unless I started to use my brain again, I was going to stay in that state for forever.
Okay.
I knew, nothing else. So actually starting to read a bit more, and even that was a struggle from a concentration point of view, a real struggle. Starting to read a bit more, starting to learn a bit more, and then understanding or feeling that breathwork and cold exposure, at that time cold showers, were making a difference to me. I wanted to understand why. So actually then doing some online training in the Wim Hof method and understanding some of the science and the physiology just gave me a bit of a focus every day. I'd have a purpose, get up in the morning, do what I needed to do and then spend half an hour or an hour just learning. And as I got better and better, and as my brain function got better and better, and as my energy levels got better and better, it became more and more obvious to me that I had a real interest in this stuff. And I took the decision to train as an instructor because, again, it gave me a goal, it gave me a purpose rather than just reading a book every day. I'd have something to work towards. And when I achieved my certification in the Wim Hof method, that's when the conversation started about, well, I'm qualified now. I feel much better in myself. I've got much more energy. What do we do now? Yeah. Do I go back to work, to my full-time job with all the stresses and strains of, that environment, lots of international travel, or actually, am I at a point in my life where a flag has been waved and they say, actually, now is your chance to make a difference to other people?
And I know the story, but just briefly for the listener, you were doing a massively responsible, huge corporate job around the world, high stress, all that kind of stuff. If I remember right, didn't you find yourself in a toilet in a hotel bedroom or something, passed out?
Yeah. Not quite in the toilet, okay. in the bathroom. I basically collapsed in a Middle East hotel whilst on a business trip, and I was there for a long period of time. Yeah, really not knowing who I was, where I was, who I was supposed to be meeting, and all the ramifications of that. Okay, and it was well over 24 months from that day that I got myself back to where I was before.
And the Wim Hof, the breath work, the cold exposure, you attribute that development and that work towards improving your health.
Yeah. So I was desperate not to go down the pharmaceutical route.
Can I ask you why?
Purely because I'd had literally a belly full of that in my late 30s when I was ill with cancer.
Right.
So I was looking for holistic ways to get better. And I was on, as part of my recovery, I signed up to lots of long COVID research, because at the time it was a new thing. Nobody really knew what long COVID was and how to treat it. I signed up to lots of research programs, and one of the programs that I signed up to suggested periods of conscious breathing whilst taking I can't remember then what they called it now, but it was kind of committed rest periods, if you like. So you would say, right, at 2:00, I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes and I am just going to breathe, nothing else. And I started to feel that doing some of those exercises was just giving me a little bit of something. I didn't quite know what, but I felt different afterwards. And then I was getting really hot at points for no particular reason, and I was finding that having a cold shower was making me feel different as well. So almost fell into breathwork and cold exposure completely by accident. And it wasn't until a good friend of mine suggested that I read a book by a crazy Dutchman called Wim Hof that I realised that I was following two of the 3 pillars of the Wim Hof method, which sparked
almost
my interest
accidentally.
even more. Yeah, absolutely.
How did that join up then with you, Karyn, and your background? Because to me, that's, okay, Dan Hughes, Wim Hof chap. I can see how that would motivate you. Why Vitae Vi for the both of you, and why join it up, Karyn? How does it connect?
So, for those people that don't really know an awful lot about the Wim Hof method, it is a method. It's a breathing method, mindset, cold exposure, the 3 pillars. But what we then thought was, hang on a minute, this is a method that you use at certain times, once a day, once a week. What else can we do that people can use all the time, every day, 24 hours a day?
Okay.
That involves the breath. And I've been a fitness instructor since I was 20, so about 10 years now I've been a fitness instructor.
Yes.
I'd have said 5, but
thank you so much. So and a therapist. I do massage, reflexology, so always been in that well-being space.
Yeah.
We then decided, hold on a minute, there's got to be something more than just the Wim Hof, which is is fabulous.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous method, but the rest of the time, what can we do? So we did a lot of research, and then came across the oxygen advantage.
Okay.
So functional breathing, things that.
What does that mean, functional?
So
breathing?
Functional breathing is the breath you should be taking every minute of the day.
Right.
Functional breath. So breathing right for your body.
Our listener is now listening, and we're talking about breathing, and I suspect our listener's brain might be going, oh, hang on a minute, I'm breathing, and they've switched from that subconscious to conscious. Assuming our listener, please listen, if you're driving a car, operating heavy machinery, do not do this stuff. But if you are somewhere safe, Karyn, can you suggest something our listeners can do to experience that conscious breathing?
So, conscious breathing just in itself purely means you're aware of it.
Right.
So it's not a specific method. The Wim Hof method, that's conscious breathing. But, everyday breathing, take your mind to your breath.
Okay.
And just breathe in and out through your nose.
Through your nose?
Through your nose. So nasal breathing, in through your nose, out through your nose. And this you can do all the time. You can do this when you're driving, when you're running. This is something you can do all the time.
When you're sleeping.
When you're sleeping, exactly,
Yes.
when you're sleeping.
Mouth tape, we'll come on to that.
We'll come to that later. But that, that's the first thing to think about, is just think about breathing in and out through your nose. Nothing else. Just be aware of, the air going in through your nose, out through your nose.
And the reason, we'll come back in a second to the oxygen advantage, but the reason I wanted to do that is from our listeners' perspective. Your story is an amazing story. I think your story is fantastic, and I think it adds a level of authority to what you're doing because of the experiences you've had. You live and breathe the techniques. So, and I'm convinced by it, as you know.
Yeah.
And what I'm hoping our listener will do is because we're going to give them a few practical things they can do in a minute, and we'll talk about some of the more practical stuff that our listener may benefit from and why it's worth them exploring these areas. But you were talking about the oxygen advantage. So just unpack that a bit for me. What's different between that and Wim Hof? Because I have to say, I didn't separate the two at first.
Okay, so well, Dan can probably explain to you a little bit more about Wim Hof, but the oxygen advantage is just, it's all about breathing properly, not necessarily properly, the best you can for your body 24/7. So starting with nasal breathing.
Okay.
It then comes a bit more in depth and a little bit more sciencey, because what we really want to do to get the best out of our body is increase its tolerance to CO2, carbon dioxide.
Right.
We can talk a little bit more about that, but it's all about how to breathe all the time for your body to function at its peak.
And the starting point for that is actually learning to breathe when the demand on your body is low. So when you're sat still, watching the TV, for example, if you're breathing functionally when the demand on your body is low, then you are probably going to be okay when you're exercising and when you're sleeping.
Okay.
If you're not breathing functionally when you're sat still, you've got no hope when you start increasing the demand on your body through exercise or when you're trying to sleep.
Yeah.
So people who are sat watching the telly with their mouths open, breathing in and out, shallow breaths in and out through the mouth, stand no hope in hell of getting to the point where they're breathing functionally during exercise or functionally during their sleep.
And I suspect there'll be many people out there will say, why does this matter? Why can't people just breathe like they normally do? Why are you bringing these regimes to people who just want to get out there and breathe normally, man?
Well, the nose is there for a reason, and
Okay.
and we say in our classes and workshops, you wouldn't eat through your nose, so why are you breathing through your mouth? And actually, a lot of people are taking the path of least resistance and breathing through their mouth because it's much easier. It demands some effort to breathe in and out through your nose, but the advantages of breathing in and out through your nose are so wide-ranging from a health and well-being point of view that that's why it's there.
Okay.
It's cleaning the air for you. It's humidifying the air for you. It's stopping you getting dehydrated. It's helping with concentration. It's boosting oxygen levels to all the right places. It's, there are so many functions of the breath that learning how to breathe functionally is such a critical component of longevity, good health, good well-being.
But the other thing to say about that is we're born breathing like that. We're born breathing properly.
We teach ourselves
Through our nose.
out of it.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, and when people say, oh, it's just breathing, bear in mind, it's the first thing you do when you come into the world. And there's a fair chance it's going to be the last thing you do.
Yes.
Take a breath as we leave.
Yes.
So that's how important it is. You've got a few minutes without it. And that's it. You could go a few minutes without breathing. That's how vital, it is. Babies are born, and we breathe in and out through our nose. That's what they do. The only time babies don't is when the nose is blocked and they've got a cold.
So what happens? Why does it change?
I think over the years, there's been many reasons it's changed, and a lot of it is to do with things like mobile phones. When you look at the way we sit with our heads down, the minute you put your head down, your mouth opens and people become very unaware. And a lot more, I hate to say it, children have got devices, things like that. They sit, they put their head down, the mouth opens, and it's an unconscious thing. People don't, go, well, I'm gonna breathe through my mouth now. It just happens, and it's got worse. And facial characteristics have now changed. If we looked at children's faces 20 years ago and you looked at them now, there would be slight anatomical changes because of how we're sitting. So it isn't just mobile phones and devices. That's, we've just become lazy, and it's, we're taught about exercise, we're taught about what to eat, what to drink, but, correct breathing is not something that's ever been given any focus. And it's so important because you can, especially in children, you can control your emotions with your breathing. You know, just by we've all done it. Take a nice deep, slow breath. Just take a couple of them. Yep, I feel better. Something's bothered me. A couple of deep breaths in through my nose, and just nice and gently, and you're calm.
Yeah.
But we seem to have lost the natural ability to be able to do these things.
Okay. So we talked about mouth taping. And for me, that's a good example of something that, I learned from you, Dan, the first time I met you. It's counterintuitive to put a bit of tape over your mouth when you go to bed and force yourself to breathe through your nose. And actually, it can feel quite uncomfortable to begin with. Help us understand what's going on when you do that.
What's happening? So first thing to say is that if you're a little bit concerned about mouth tape, is to put a piece on before you go to bed for half an hour or so and just get used to it. You know, just build up that feeling. And what we're talking about here is a piece of tape across the centre of your lips from top to bottom, just to keep your mouth closed. So you can still, with your mouth taped, you can still talk and you can still breathe.
Just to let you know, Dan is doing the accent here, listener. That's why he sounds different.
So the purpose of the mouth tape is to keep your mouth closed. And when your mouth is closed, if you breathe in and out through your mouth now, take a couple of very gentle breaths in and out through your mouth, close your mouth and notice where your tongue goes. Your tongue goes to the roof of your mouth, which is its parking place. By taping your mouth closed, your tongue will stay in its parking place. You will not have those moments where your tongue drops to the back of your throat as you go into deep sleep and either snore or consciously or subconsciously wake yourself up with apneas.
Okay.
So it's a really important part of getting a good night's sleep. It helps keep your breath rate nice and slow, nice and deep, nice and low, which automatically puts you in a relaxed state as well. And then there's a whole host of other things that happen when you sleep properly, like not needing to get up in the night to go to the loo and that sort of thing. So I genuinely, and I think Karyn feels the same, genuinely wish I'd found this out 30 years ago. Because I've always been, or until the last couple of years, I've not been a great sleeper. And actually, since using mouth tape, I now look forward to going to bed because I know I'm going to wake up the following morning feeling absolutely 100%, on the money.
Yeah.
So not just because I put mouth tape on and don't talk.
But
I'm not saying
I really
a word.
look forward to going to bed now.
By the way,
Karen's got her mouth tape on.
just to clarify, because I was incorrectly doing this with gaffer tape for a week, and then I discovered there's surgical tape, isn't there, you can use instead.
Yes.
I mean, Lisa insisted on me putting like a whole reel of gaffer tape on. I don't know why. But
Yeah, and round and across the ears as well. Yeah.
But this surgical tape, Hydrofix.
It's Hyperfix. It's just it's a medical grade surgical tape. It's got a bit of give in it. We always suggest you put a little bit of lip salve or Vaseline on your lips before you put it on, just so that it's less painful when you take it off in the morning.
Okay.
And even for somebody like me with a bit of a beard, the Hyperfix works just as well. I use a little cross shape across my lips, but we've got loads of information on mouth taping on our blog. Through the website.
Well, I was just about to say, we'll put all the links in the show notes to your blog, your website, and links to wherever you can get gaffer tape. So we've talked a bit about the business, where the business has come from. Dan, your history, your health challenges, and Karyn, about your background a little bit in healthcare, and we've touched on reflexology. We've talked about Wim Hof. We talked about oxygen advantage, and so on. So, an important point to stress for our listener, by the way, I've only got one listener, we're talking to them now. We're not just talking about solving problems. So this isn't only for people who've had long COVID or who snore, or, this is about even people who are, feel quite vital and feel well about themselves.
Almost everybody that comes to one of our classes or workshops has a very nice experience, but it isn't just about the experience. There are some really good physiological things happening in your body that are really beneficial. There's immunity being boosted. You're getting oxygen into the right parts of your body. You're getting all sorts of health and well-being benefits that are a sort of byproduct of having a nice experience whilst you're undertaking the breath work.
Okay.
We're starting to see females who've come to several of our sessions bringing along their husbands or boyfriends, and that's amazing because the husbands and boyfriends have obviously seen some changes in their partner that is sparking the interest in them coming along to find out what it's all about. Okay. So that's really heartwarming.
Okay,
It is, yeah.
I'm aware that this is quite a rambling conversation in the fact that there are two different modalities of breathwork that we're talking about here. The oxygen advantage is that functional breathing, so that 23 and a half hours a day that you should be breathing functionally. And then the Wim Hof and the breathwork that we're talking about is the stuff you do for the other half an hour a day.
Yeah.
Not functional, but conscious, connected breathwork that has a whole host of health and wellbeing benefits as well. So.
And in a minute, what we'll do is we'll talk through some practical examples of those things for our listener. But first of all, here's an advert from our sponsor. Sorry to interrupt your listening, but I just wanted to jump in with a quick message. If you've listened to Sharp Podcast for a few years, you might be wondering why we've been mentioning SON development and what that's all about. Are they a sponsor? Is it a house building company? Well, no. You see, we've been making Sharp Podcasts since 2017, and it's always been our aim to give you free resource that helps you get better at the things that matter to you, and we're not planning to change that. But SON Development is the training company that I founded in 2021 to help organisations, teams and individuals improve performance and make a real difference to their working lives. We run workshops, we do consultation, and we provide digital resource about leadership, coaching, sales, customer service, planning and prioritisation, and loads more stuff. So if you're a business or a team leader and you're frustrated that your training isn't making a real difference, give us a shout. You can find out more about what we do at sondevelopment.com, and of course there's a link in the show notes. But if you prefer to get your development free of charge with Sharp Podcast, would you do us a favour and just make a quick note now to share this episode or any that you really like with your friends, family, colleagues, anyone who you think it could help. We'd really appreciate it. End of interruption, back to the episode. Thinking from a practical perspective, so thinking about our listener, first of all, in terms of the functional breath work, let's say you do presentations in your work, or you do workshops or that kind of stuff. What can someone do before a presentation or before an important piece of work to get themselves in the right frame of mind?
So the top tip really for any form of anxiety, heightened anxiety or stress level is to extend the exhale. That's the key. So, for example, taking your example, somebody about to stand up and give a presentation, I would recommend they do a 4-4-8 breath. So they breathe in to the count of 4, they hold their breath to the count of 4, and then they extend the exhale to the count of 8.
Okay.
And it is that extension of the exhale that switches on the parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest system, calms everything down. Your brain is getting lots of messages from all parts of your body saying, we're safe, we're calm, there's no problem. So 4-4-8 is a brilliant one to dial
Breathe into
down.
the count of 4, hold for 4, then breathe out slowly to the count of 8. And do that, 3 or 4 times?
Yeah, do it for 90 seconds or so. You know, in a quiet place, and you'll be set ready for your presentation, nice and calm.
Okay.
Yeah. And a really good tip with that as well is when you're breathing out for 8 is to purse your lips, and you can breathe out really slowly through the mouth for that one.
Okay, that's interesting. What about the opposite then? If you want to get your brain fired up and into a sort of focused, do you do 8-4-4? What?
No, you're getting a nice bath.
You get an ice bath. Okay.
So counterintuitively, actually giving your brain a shot of extra oxygen is all about breathing as lightly as you possibly can. And the exercise that we teach for this one is to breathe in through your nose gently and then put your finger across your top lip underneath your nose and blow out through your nose so gently and so quietly and so softly that you can barely feel the air drifting across your finger. And the reason for that is what we're trying to encourage is the build-up of carbon dioxide in your blood. Mm-hmm. That carbon dioxide, without getting too sciencey, that carbon dioxide blood level is really important to help oxygen unlock itself from the red blood cells in your body. If the carbon dioxide levels are too low, then that oxygen cannot release itself from the blood, and it just travels around your body, ends up back in your lungs, and you breathe it back out again. People who are anxious and stressed tend to be breathing much faster. They tend to be breathing, much more shallow, and therefore they're getting rid of all the carbon dioxide in their breath, not retaining it. So by slowing everything down, making everything as light as you possibly can, you're going to keep that carbon dioxide level high in your blood. Oxygen is going to be released from your blood. And because the body is so clever, it releases oxygen to the brain first, because that's the nerve center. That's where everything, the control center. So giving your brain a shot of oxygen, nice normal breath in, and then a really slow, gentle breath out through your nose, across your finger, so that you can hardly notice it.
Okay. So we've got 4 presentation to feel calm and grounded, 4, 4, 8. If you want to feel a little bit more energized and so on, breath in, finger under your nose, breathe out really slowly, which is helping the carbon dioxide move the oxygen around your system. Correct. And getting the most out of that oxygen before it's released. In the break, we had a conversation about I say Wim Hof, but what we actually mean. What was that phrase you used?
Conscious connected. Conscious
connected. Now, obviously, we are not going to, and just by the way, just as a sort of a legal disclaimer for me, not you guys, no advice I'm giving you on this podcast, or the Dan and Karyn I'm giving you on this podcast, we're not recommending you go and just try any of this stuff yourself. Listener, you are responsible for your own health, and we're not giving you advice. This is a conversation, and a very interesting conversation. If you want to do the conscious connected breathing and some of that more dynamic stuff, then I highly, highly recommend, if you are in the South Hampshire area, contact Dan and Karyn and do it in a guided class. If you're not in this area, go and find a trained instructor who can do it in a guided class, because for me, that really opened me up to understanding what's going on from someone who knows what they're doing, and they can help me understand it. Now, obviously, people can go and get an app or just try stuff themselves, and clearly they can do what they want to do. But obviously, there's risks in people just deciding to suddenly start breathing differently, and particularly with that more sort of energetic, deep breathing and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I'd fully support what you said. That we spend a lot of time as coaches and trainers in learning how to do this stuff safely, but how to get the best experience, or provide the best experience for those people taking part. And actually, if you are being guided by a trained coach, then you can really allow yourself to drift between that conscious and subconscious period. And it is deeply relaxing. It's one of the most relaxing things you can do is to come to a guided class, whether that's with us or another, trained coach, and allow yourself to disappear off to a different planet for a while.
So in this practical tips, ideas, things we can give people, reflexology, Karyn. So thinking about what people can do for themselves in the reflexology or movement areas, what sorts of scenarios, if someone finds themselves in, can they do a quick?
Many of my clients in between sessions will use some spiky balls.
Okay.
So
hello.
These spiky balls.
Back in the room.
So these are little rubber balls with spikes on them, and they come in all different spikes. Yeah, just rubber spikes.
Oh, okay, right.
Balls with rubber spikes.
I just think a picture of a tennis ball with nails. So that's not what you mean, is it?
That's not what I mean. No. Okay. They're massage balls.
Okay.
Massage balls, and they come in sort of different firmnesses.
Okay.
And you can just, when you're sat watching television, just put one under your feet, start at your toes, roll it round, do some circles forwards and backwards, just gradually move it over your whole foot. So you can give yourself a really good deep massage in between treatments. But even if you've not had a reflexology before, it's a really nice thing to do. It's really relaxing. The other thing, when you think about your feet and how much weight is on them.
Yes.
How much pressure's on all of the tendons in the soles of your feet during the day. It's actually a really nice thing to do anyway.
Okay.
But no, it's really good for stimulating all the points on your feet that you would with a reflexology.
Okay. If our listeners want to get into cold exposure, and I'm thinking cold showers, that kind of stuff, what do they do?
Yeah, you don't need a fancy ice bath to do cold exposure. Like you say, a cold shower is all you need, or if you've got a bath at home, you can just fill that with cold water. The water temperature in the UK at the moment is about 8 or 9 degrees, which is cold enough for you to get the benefits of it. The recent research suggests that 11 minutes of cold exposure a week spread over the week, so 90 seconds here, a couple of minutes there, spread over the week is good enough to give you all the benefits of cold exposure, which includes boosting your immunity, helping with blood pressure and cardiovascular fitness. It helps with energy levels and helps with sleep, among a whole host of other things. A simple cold shower. And again, I go back to that point I made about keeping anxiety and stress levels low. As you turn the dial on your shower down to cold, extend your exhale. Make that exhale as long as you can. Just focus on that, and the cold water won't feel quite so bad.
So what we're saying here is normal warm shower, get washed, and at the end, turn it to cold.
Always finish on cold. And then the most important thing is to not then artificially warm your body up. So don't put the shower back on hot again, because you destroy the good work you've just done in the cold. Don't go and have hot drinks. Keep yourself warm naturally. Put on even if you put on a bobble hat in the house, just for half an hour or so, whilst your body works really hard to warm you up, because that's when all the magic happens.
Okay.
That's where all the adaptations in your body take place, and that's when you really get the benefits from it.
Okay.
So artificially warming yourself up afterwards is just not going to work.
So towel yourself off and then just let your body warm itself up. And it's actually you're intentionally exposing yourself to a good stress, aren't you, by doing the cold shower, which is what's creating that.
Absolutely. Modern society is designed to keep us comfortable. We've got centrally heated houses, we've got lovely warm clothes, we don't have to worry about hunting for food and gathering and what have you. So introducing positive stress during your day is helping your body adapt and become way more resilient than it currently is.
Yeah. What I find remarkable is the correlation between doing these innocuous low-level things consciously to a standard and the significant impact on your life. I mean, I'm a bit of an evangelist about what you guys do, and I get very, very excited when I come back from a breathwork class and quite giddy about it, because since the 24th of November, which was our day, I've done breathwork every day. I've done cold showers almost every day, which we'll come on to in a minute. And it's just remarkable how I feel like I've changed. I'm a fairly energetic kind of guy, and yet I feel like I've got a vitality, I've got a connection, I've got an awareness. I feel like I'm connecting to people better wherever I am, and I'm more aware of what people are doing. I'm confident that all of this is from doing the breath work and the cold exposure. Yeah. So I find it quite hard not to get quite giddy about the profound effect of, feet and breathing. I mean, they're quite mundane subjects.
And I think with, a lot of people out there are going to be thinking, now, why should I do this? Yeah. Do I sleep well? Am I a little bit stressed? Yeah. With the breathing, it's something everyone should be doing. Mm-hmm. But if there's just something and you're thinking, I could just do with a reset, this is a really good way to start, is to say, right, I'm going to go right back to basics, and I'm going to start with my breathing. And from there, this is going to be my new start. I know this sounds a bit massive, but this is how I feel about it. And this is how it sort of comes across to me as it's happened to you. It was almost, you started with a blank page back in November. And I think this is a really good place to start. Start with your breath. Everything else will follow. If you need to get fitter or you've got another goal, they will all come, but start with the fundamentals. Yeah. Get this. It's a blank sheet. And from there, the only way can be up. And once you've got your breathing, you can build on.
Absolutely.
Everything can just sit on top of that. Yeah. I would start with the breathing. Don't start with the marathon training. Start with your breath and the marathon training will follow. Don't start with the marathon training and then say, oh, really need to get my breathing under control.
Yeah.
But that's how I sort of see what we do.
Okay.
It's not, there's got to be a specific reason to come and try this.
Just try
you want to
it.
come and try it because it's going to feel good.
Yeah,
it's going to do you some good.
Dan.
There are two things that struck me when you were just speaking, Steve, about the way it makes you feel. Firstly, what you're experiencing is that life force energy that I mentioned right at the start. That's why we called our business Vitae Vi, Latin translation of life force. And that extra energy, that extra vitality, that extra feeling of connection and community and all that sort of thing all comes from the life force that you're now experiencing on a daily basis. Yeah. Secondly, we breathe on average as adults 20 to 25,000 times a day. And if you are, we're all aware of what we're eating. We're all aware of the fact that we need to exercise more, but we pay very little attention to our breath. If we get control of our breath in those periods of rest, as Karyn said, start with your breath first, the marathon will come.
Yeah.
If we are making 1 or 2% incremental differences to our breath on a regular basis, a daily basis, the impact is huge.
Yeah. And that brings me full circle back to where we started in terms of why we do this podcast, because we want to give people ideas and suggestions about how things can help them either do the mundane worky stuff they have to do to a decent standard, but free them up then to focus on the things that matter and the things that they really rather spend time doing. And over the years since I've been doing this podcast, I've had some people come along and they've got a solution to how to improve your Excel skills, or, it's quite narrow in terms of, no one came on to say that. I wouldn't be disparaging to my guests. But some other people have come on with what I call these force multipliers, that actually if you do this, it has a foundational effect. Aaron, who you exchanged message with today on LinkedIn, he's been on twice, so you need to come on at least once more to catch up, please. He's another person that talks about not just fitness, but what you eat and the wider health and well-being element of things. And I think people are getting wise to these sort of fitness gurus and gyms and that kind of stuff, and realising that actually, they have a place, but they're quite narrow in the effect they can have. Whereas what you've talked about is it is life-changing. So running your own business and being productive and motivated, what one or two things have you learned over the years that works for you to do that?
You get Dan to do all the hard work. It's quite simple.
When you say, Karyn, what do you mean? When you say hard work, what do you mean by hard work?
I have an idea and Dan makes it reality.
So like our house.
You laugh, but that is often the case. And actually, we do our best thinking and talking whilst we're outside walking the dog, usually out in nature.
Yes,
have the most beautiful conversations together, and out of those conversations comes an idea, usually from Karyn, and then I try and put it into practice, or put it into play, or put it into the system.
But often, many of our walks are silent.
Okay.
Because we will go out and we will walk really fast.
Yes.
And nasal breathe only.
Yeah, of course.
Which is really tricky when you're talking. You can't. No. So we either have a chatty walk.
Yeah, or a silent walk.
Or we have a silent walk. So.
And I think, that's it. You made that point a little while ago, Dan, about the importance of rest. We have to recharge. It's a cliche. I talk about it all the time. These phones don't work properly if we don't recharge them. We are no different. And actually, just sitting there and doing nothing is really purposeful, because it's allowing your brain to process and all that kind of stuff. I don't like the word productivity. In fact, I did a whole podcast episode about why I don't like the word productivity. But when you say productivity, people kind of know what you mean. What do you do that keeps you productive? How do you get stuff done?
So for me, my day starts as soon as I wake up,
Right.
with 3 or 4 rounds of breath work in bed before I've done anything else. And we all reach for the phone, don't we, in the early morning, and check out what's happened or is about to happen, and then you get sucked into that that portal of life. So for me, 3 or 4 rounds of breath work, immediately get up, put my shorts on, straight out into the garden and cold plunge.
Okay.
And for me, that is a ritual or a regime or whatever you want to call it, a habit now that really grounds me, gives me the kick of energy that I really enjoy, and clears my head ready to figure out what I need to do next.
Okay. Karyn, are you the same? Karyn's putting a face.
No, Karen's not the same. I just get stuff done. I don't know how it all gets done, and I don't know what order it gets done in, but it just gets done.
Okay.
My stuff. No, my days are quite different. Dan is very structured with his day and knows exactly what needs doing and gets it done. Right. I'm very often working out of the house. So it's just a little bit more disjointed for me.
Yeah.
So no, I tend to plan a month in advance.
Okay.
So I've got my months planned out as to where I am each day.
Right.
I struggle a little bit more to be quite as productive when I'm at home.
Okay. But you say that, I mean, it's interesting that how your tone of voice changed there to say you struggle to be more productive when you're at home. Many people now, particularly post-COVID, are working from home or hybrid and that kind of stuff. And for those of us that run our own businesses, it can be all-consuming. It can take over. What would and particularly as a couple, what would your advice be to people to not let it become overwhelming and take over your world?
I think it's really important to, almost program in time into your diary to spend time together.
Yes.
And we're very fortunate in that we can both work from home at times, and we've got a dog. So actually that dog needs exercise every day, and that's a really good opportunity for us to get out and about at least once a day.
Yeah.
And certainly at weekends, spend some quality time together, chatting and, coming up with ideas and what have you.
Okay.
We are both guilty, I think, certainly last year, of spending way too much time focused on a business, which we obviously, a new business, you have to be.
Yeah.
But actually this year we've made a conscious decision that time is more important than everything else. We're never going to get that time back.
Absolutely. How do you make sure those boundaries stick? What do you do to resist the temptation to check an email at 9 p.m. or allow that to drift into this face pulling?
Yeah, Dan, what do you do?
How do you do it? Because it's hard, it's difficult, and it's not always achievable.
No, it isn't. And actually, when it isn't achievable, it isn't achievable.
Yeah.
Don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's another day. But no, we are generally very good at putting the phones down, leaving them in another room.
Nice.
And we always, unless we've got something we really need to talk about, we will eat. We will then have half an hour finishing off whatever work we need to do, and then we'll go and sit down and chat, watch TV, read a book.
Okay.
But no, we do make sure most evenings, it'd be once every 2 weeks that we'll work through an evening.
Right.
I sometimes have clients in the evening, but that's different. But as looking at computers and that sort of thing, we stop. We just
definite
stop.
End to your
Absolutely.
day is which we talk about in Clear. I'm not going to talk about Clear at all in this podcast episode. Go and sign up for Clear; it's really good.
It is. I can attest to that.
Thank you. Okay, 3 quick fire questions. What are you most proud of,
Dan?
Oh, well, that's really sweet. Thank you. I'm going to be in trouble if I now don't say Karyn,
No,
aren't
not at all.
I'm really proud of the community that we've built.
Yes.
We've got an amazing group of people who really enjoy what we do. We really enjoy, having them part of our community. And it's really driving us to try and provide extra value to those people on a regular basis. So, community events or sending out little hints and tips on a Sunday evening on the WhatsApp group and that sort of thing. So I'm really proud that we've got a loyal group of people who love to follow us. And they're, we are way over 130, 140 now in that community, which is amazing.
That is fantastic.
So yeah, that's what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. But it's also people like yourself, Steve, and Lisa that practice what you've learned at home, because that's our goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is to give people the tools to do this sort of thing every day, not have to come to our class and that be the only way that you're going to get the benefits. The whole point is to get this out to people, and you'll pass it on to someone. You might pass it on to kids. Actually, let's all sit down. Let's breathe like this. We do it with our boys, so that is fabulous. But no, I'm most proud of Dan. As I said, I think from where he was to where he is now, and
very cool.
It is cool, and to go from being corporate, because that's what he was. He was just a corporate suit.
Yeah.
To being this person that is amazing with others and so generous at sharing what he knows. That's awesome.
Love it.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
What makes you laugh?
Karyn.
15 all.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time laughing. I don't think I can hand on heart tell you what at, actually. No, I think we laugh at each other, mainly.
At or with.
Hang on.
You can relate to that as well. Final question about the business. What's next? Where 5 years down the road?
From my point of view, I would love to own a property that would enable us to run our own retreats.
Okay.
So whether those would be, a day or overnight or a long weekend or a week-long retreat covering all sorts of health and well-being aspects. Yeah. Not necessarily all provided by us, but that would be
that's the dream.
Goal.
Yeah, that's the dream, I think.
And that you talk about the impact of what you do. I think that as you get older, you kind of you realise that it's less about you and more about other people. We go on that journey, don't we? And I was that arrogant 20-year-old manager, and it was all about me, and I had a flash car and all that kind of stuff. Listeners will now know I drive a burgundy Volvo. I'm interested in other things, but it is about the effect we have as we go through life and the effect we have on other people. We're not here for very long. You've heard me talk. In fact, you heard me last week, Dan, talking about the stuff I do. It's not about the workshop or the activity. It's about the effect it has on someone and what happens a week, 2 weeks, 3 months down the line. That's what really matters to me. And I'd rather work with 20 people we have some sort of effect on than 1,000 people who come for the day and then you never hear from them again, and so on. And that sense of community and the footprint that you're giving people in their life is
absolutely
significant.
It is. For both of us, this is not about the money. Obviously, we've got bills to pay. But if it was about the money, I would have stayed in the corporate world and, Karyn would be working full-time with the NHS and so on. Yeah. It isn't about the money. It's about giving people the key to unlock the toolbox, because they've got the tools in there already. We're just giving them the key to unlock it.
Love it.
And actually, that's really fulfilling. That's a really fulfilling thing to do.
Yeah,
and both of us come back from workshops and classes and courses usually absolutely buzzing, because we're making it feels like we're making a difference, and that's why we do it, for no other reason.
So earlier on in the podcast we talked about cold showers. I guess what we haven't talked very much about is the whole ice bath and all that kind of stuff and so on. And maybe that feels like a subject for another podcast, because there's a lot to talk about there, isn't there?
There is a lot to talk about, yeah. There's a lot of physiological changes happening in your body during cold exposure. So, yeah, I'd love to come back and talk about that in a much more broad way.
Do that. Yeah. Is there anything you wish we had covered that we haven't covered?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, enjoyed it. It's our first podcast experience. It's been a good one.
Good. Final bit is the plug zone. Have at it. Tell us where people can find you, where they can go online. We're going to put all these links in the show notes, but just tell people where they can find you.
So our website, www.vitae Vi, so VITAE, all one word, .co.uk. Socials at Vitae Vi Official. You can email us at hello@vitaevi.co.uk. Lots of information on our website, as well as some really helpful blogs on things like mouth taping and breathing exercises you can do to promote good sleep and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Okay. And you're on Instagram, Facebook?
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
X?
No, don't do all the teenage stuff because I don't understand it.
No, not do I.
Way too old.
TikTok?
No, not TikTok.
I'm on TikTok.
Are you?
We're not yet.
Yeah, I don't love it, but I am on there.
Not yet.
Listen, Dan, Karyn, thank you so much. That's been a fantastic conversation, and there is a lot there for people to enjoy and listen to, and it definitely feels like there's another one to be had after this. Thank you very much for coming. I really, really appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been a great experience.
It's been a pleasure.
So what did you think? It was great, wasn't it? As I mentioned, all the links to Dan's and Karyn's techniques, the blogs, the ideas, that'll all be in the show notes. And if you are anywhere near the South Coast, I highly recommend joining them at one of their classes. We've been doing them since November last year, and they are absolutely wonderful. So at the start, I teased you with the idea that we've got something new to announce, and we do. In February, I ran a workshop with Portsmouth Business Exchange about goals with purpose. It was a taster of a full workshop that we do with businesses, all about connecting your goals to the things that matter to the business. And it went down a storm. And you haven't got to take my word for it. The testimonials and the commentary that we've had back are brilliant. One person put their plan into action, and by the following Tuesday had not only done the 18 weekly tasks they'd set aside for themselves for that week, but it meant that on the Wednesday, they started working on a creative project that they'd be aiming to do for 2 years. This course unlocks your ability to get the things that matter done, supported by Clear, the system that we have so the distractions and noise of the daily stuff doesn't get in the way. So what's the news? Well, the news is that we are opening this workshop up to individuals. So it's no longer just going to be for organisations. Now we're going to be releasing dates for face-to-face workshops in and around Portsmouth, and I'm also putting plans in to create a remote version which you can attend from anywhere in the world. So if you're interested in bringing real change to your world, register your interest by firing me an email at contact@sondevelopment.com, and I'll put you on the waiting list. People are describing this stuff as game-changing. As I said, don't just take my word for it. Pop over to my LinkedIn profile and you can see for yourself what people are saying. Okay, enough excitement. I'm going to lie down now in a darkened room and do some breathing. You have a cracking week, and remember, don't compare yourself to anyone else. Just aim to be a little better than the person you were yesterday. See you next time. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask you if we can sit for 5 seconds in absolute silence, no breathing, or breath retention maybe, but no breathing into the mic, please. You ready?
Yep.
Go.
You couldn't have made that happen.
You couldn't, could you?